So today we're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 14. And it says in there we'll be going over text 174 to 249. So we'll see how this goes, and I'll just read the English here to everyone, so try to pay attention. We'll start with 174, and we'll just go through. Pride, ambition, weeping, smiling, envy, fear, and anger are the 7 ecstatic loving symptoms manifested by a jubilant shrinking away. And these symptoms are called Kila Kinchita Bhava. There are 7 other transcendental ecstatic symptoms, and when they combine on the platform of jubilation, the combination is called Mahabhava. The 7 combined ingredients of Mahabhava are pride, ambition, fear, dry artificial crying, anger, envy, and mild smiling. There are 8 symptoms of ecstatic love on the platform of transcendental jubilation, and when they are combined and tasted by Krishna, the Lord's mind is completely satisfied. Indeed, they are compared to a combination of yogurt, candy, ghee, honey, black pepper, camphor, and cardamom, which when mixed together are very tasty and sweet. Lord Sri Krishna is thousands upon thousands of times more satisfied when he sees Srimati Radharani's face light up from this combination of ecstatic love than he is by direct union with her. This is further explained in the following verse from Ujjvala Nilamani of Srila Rupa Goswami. May the sight of Srimati Radharani's Kila Kanchita ecstasy, which is like a bouquet, bring good fortune to all. When Sri Krishna blocked Radharani's way to the Dhanagati, there was laughter within her heart. Her eyes grew bright, and fresh tears flowed from her eyes, reddening them. Due to her sweet relationship with Krishna, her eyes were enthusiastic, and when her crying subsided, she appeared even more beautiful. Agitated by tears, Srimati Radharani's eyes were tinged with red, just like the eastern horizon at sunrise. Her lips began to move with jubilation and lusty desire. Her eyebrows curved, and her lotus-like face smiled mildly. Seeing Radharani's face exhibit such emotion, Lord Sri Krishna felt 1,000,000 times happier than when he embraced her. Indeed, Lord Sri Krishna's happiness is not at all mundane. Upon hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy, and being absorbed in this happiness, he embraced Swarup Damodar Goswami. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then asked Swarup Damodar, "Please speak of the ecstatic ornaments decorating the body of Srimati Radharani, by which she enchants the mind of Sri Govinda." Being thus requested, Swarup Damodar began to speak. All the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were very happy to hear him. Sometimes, when Srimati Radharani is sitting, or when she is going to Vrindavan, she sees Krishna. The symptoms of various ecstasies that become manifest at that time are called vilasa. The various symptoms manifested in a woman's face, eyes, and other parts of her body, and the way she moves, stands, or sits when she meets her beloved are called vilasa. Swarup Damodar said, timidity, jubilation, ambition, respect, fear, and the characteristics of the left-wing gopis are all ecstatic symptoms that combine to agitate Srimati Radharani. This is explained in the following verse from the Govinda Lilamrita. When Srimati Radharani saw Lord Krishna just before her, her progress stopped, and she assumed an attitude of opposition. Although her face was slightly covered by a blue garment, her two starry eyes were agitated, being wide and curved. Thus she was decorated with the ornaments of Vilasa, and her beauty increased to give pleasure to Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When Srimati Radharani stands before Krishna, she stands bent in three places, her neck, waist, and legs, and her eyebrows dance. When there is awakening of the various ecstatic features on Srimati Radharani's face and in her eyes that are appropriate to a charming feminine attitude, the Lalita ornament is manifest. When the bodily features are delicate and expertly curved, and when the eyebrows are very beautifully agitated, the ornament of feminine charm called Lalita, Alankara, is manifest. When Lord Sri Krishna happens to see Srimati Radharani decorated with these ornaments, they both eagerly want to meet each other. When Srimati Radharani was decorated with the ornament of Lalita, Alankara, just to increase Sri Krishna's love, an attractive curve was manifested by her neck, knees, and waist. This was brought about by her timidity, and apparent desire to avoid Krishna. The flickering movements of her eyebrows could conquer the powerful bow of Cupid. To increase the joy of her beloved, her body was decorated with the ornaments of Lalita Alankara. When Krishna comes forward and greedily snatches at the border of her sari, Srimati Radharani is actually very pleased within, but still she tries to stop him. When the border of her sari and cloth veiling her face are caught, she externally appears offended and angry, but within her heart she's very happy. Learned scholars call this attitude Kutamita. Although Srimati Radharani was checking Krishna with her hand, internally she's thinking, let Krishna satisfy his desires. In this way she was very pleased within, although she externally displayed opposition and anger. Srimati Radharani externally displays a kind of dry crying, as if she is offended. Then she mildly smiles and admonishes Lord Krishna. Actually, she has no desire to stop Krishna's endeavor to touch her body with his hands. Yet Srimati Radharani, whose thighs are like the trunk of a baby elephant, protests his advances, and sweetly smiling, admonishes him. At such time she cries without tears on her charming face. So I'm up to verse 200 here. Vishaka Mataji, I'm thinking maybe I should go ahead, talk a little bit about Snana Yatra and the Rath Yatra festival. From then I can go, and if we have time at the end, we can go back. Let's see here. We're going up to text 249. This is text 237. Only Nityananda Prabhu could catch Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but the ecstatic mood of the Lord wouldn't stop. At the same time, Kirtan could not be continued. Shrup Damodar then informed the Lord that all the devotees were fatigued. Seeing this situation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to his external senses. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the flower garden with all his devotees. After resting there for some time, he took his afternoon bath. Then there arrived in large quantities a variety of food that had been offered to Sri Jagannath, and a variety that had been offered to the goddess of fortune. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finished his afternoon lunch, and after his evening bath, he went to see Lord Jagannath. As soon as he saw Lord Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to chant and dance. Afterward, accompanied by his devotees, the Lord enjoyed sporting in the lake called Narendra Sarovar. The next day, Lord Jagannath came out from the temple and, riding on the car, returned to his abode. As previously, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees chanted and danced with great pleasure. During the Pandu Vijaya, Lord Jagannath was carried, and while he was being carried, a bunch of silken ropes broke. When the Jagannath deity is carried, at intervals he's placed on cotton pads. When the rope broke, the cotton pads also broke due to the weight of Lord Jagannath, and the cotton floated into the air. Text 248. Ramananda, Vasu, and Satyaraj Khan were present from Kulinagram, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with great respect, gave them the following orders. Text 249. Ei patta durira tumeha o yajamana pati vatsara anibe dore kariya nirmana. Translation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Ramananda Vasu and Satyaraj Khan to become the worshippers of these ropes, and every year bring silken ropes from the village. Purport. It is understood that silken rope was being manufactured by the local inhabitants of Kulinagram. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Vasu and Satyaraj Khan to get ropes every year for Lord Jagannath's service. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nirvishesha Sanjavari Paskacha De Satarni Panchakopa Tirubhisha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So as everyone here knows, today is a very special day. I believe Lord Jagannath has arrived here from Bury Place last night. I gave a little class last night, and I said Bury Place, Soho Street. We had class there. Of course, Lord Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, they were there. And coincidentally, there was a big program. They called it Gay Pride Parade. I didn't see any parade. We have parades, Rath Yatra parade, but they had several streets all around the temple there, blocked off. And there were literally tens of thousands of people trying to enjoy. I said to my wife, I had one reminder of Vrindavan last night, and it was the trash strewn in the street. You know, when you have a big festival in Vrindavan, everyone leaves their cups and plates, you find them all over. And there last night it was liquor cans everywhere, all over. And there was 30 or 40 devotees. We had Maha Harinam last night for several hours. We got back here about 11 o'clock last night from Maha Harinam program. And it was very, very nice. And I was thinking, maybe that's why Lord Jagannath came here today. He said when he saw everything going on there last night, he said, I think I'll go to Bhaktivedanta Manor for a little while till they clean up this place, you know. So today that festival's there, Snana Yatra. It was Raja King Indrajumna, who had those deities made, and the bathing ceremony was there. It was on the full moon in the summertime, at the very height of summer, before the rainy season. So the deities were bathed, said from nice gold vessels, 108 gold vessels, special water that they had gotten from the holy places. And of course, in this way, we say, and we'll be doing this, I believe we leave here, they said 8:45 or so, and there at the Haveli, 9 o'clock, the snana will begin, bathing of Lord Jagannath. Everyone, well, I don't know who, everyone, but many will get to bathe Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. And then at that time, because of all these cooling waters, the waters, they have different oils in, very cooling. So sometimes he said he gets a cold, and then he has recovery over the next few weeks. I'm kind of disheartened we won't be here for Rath Yatra festival. Of course, there was a very famous Rath Yatra festival back in 1973. That festival I happened to be at, a very big Rath Yatra festival. Everyone knows when the first Rath Yatra festival was outside of Puri. What year did that take place? 1967? I think it was 1967 in San Francisco. Srila Prabhupada understood Lord Jagannath is the Lord of the universe, not constricted to just being in Puri. So over the years, Prabhupada developed Rath Yatra festival all over the world. Now I know, I think Vishaka just the other night, where were you? There was Rath Yatra. No, it wasn't just the other day, a Rath Yatra festival. Cambridge. So every city now, Rath Yatra festivals are going on by Srila Prabhupada's arrangement. It was in 1973. Of course, I was with Srila Prabhupada that whole year. And he had been in Mayapur. It was like June 1973. He was in Mayapur. He was in Calcutta. And also there he became ill. And while staying in Calcutta, of course, mail was always coming to Srila Prabhupada. We say like 25 letters a day. Srila Prabhupada would get mail. This is how the whole society went on, was just by letters going to Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes they would take weeks to get to him, because he'd be in one place, they'd send a letter, say, to here. But by the time the letter got here, he was somewhere else. So then they'd forward it to the next destination, the next destination. In the same way, when he responded, the letter would be there, so they might send it to the devotee where he was. Anyway, things took time, but somehow everything went on. Everything went on without any difficulty. I remember at that time, in that year, a few different cities, 1973, 1974, this one electronic machine came out. It was called the telex machine. You know, you had the Western Union, which took some time, but the telex was instant. And the devotees, they suggested to Prabhupada, we can buy a telex machine, and we can put them in the temples, and we can instantly, you just type on the thing, and it would go right to the next place, wherever it was. And they said, we could do that, have this instant communication. Prabhupada said, no. He said, they'll just use it for gossip. Imagine his foresight. His foresight. Just use it for gossip, he said, not necessary. So there in Calcutta, his secretary read him these two letters. One letter came from Shyamasundar Sundar Prabhu, from here at Bhaktivedanta Manor. And he told Srila Prabhupada, we're going to have a very big Rath Yatra festival. 3 carts, starting from Marble Arch, I believe it is, all the way to Trafalgar Square. I think it's a few miles, not a short distance. At the same time, he got a letter from Madhvisa in Australia. Everyone was always trying to get Srila Prabhupada to come to their place. Everyone wanted Srila Prabhupada at their temple. There was nothing better than that. So Madhvisa, like everyone, heard, Srila Prabhupada wasn't feeling well. So he wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada and said, you can come and rest in Perth. And there you can recover and again stay here for 1-2 weeks and then carry on with your travels. So that was Calcutta. So there, of course, at that time, many of Prabhupada's disciples were there. Sannyasis, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Bhavananda, Jayapataka Maharaj, Gargamuni, Mahanand in the temple president at Calcutta. These were all senior devotees. So Prabhupada called them into the room and he told them, he said, I have offered to go to Perth, Australia, to rest. See, one thing, Perth, Australia, there was no temple. So that meant rest. Not that Prabhupada would be giving classes every day. He could just do his translation work. No darshans. There's no one there. It would just be Prabhupada and his entourage. So he said, you please come to Perth, Australia, and you can rest and recover. So Prabhupada told them, a group of 6 devotees. And then he told them, I've also been given the opportunity to go to London. They're going to have Rath Yatra Festival in a few weeks. 3 carts will be biggest Rath Yatra festival ever in London. So he looked at them, so senior devotees, sannyasis, GBCs, temple presidents. He said, so you discuss amongst yourselves. Jai Shri Gokulananda ki jai. Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Shri Gaurnitai ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this was very exciting for these devotees. Prabhupada was asking for their opinion. Prabhupada didn't often ask their opinion. He would tell you what to do. You do this, you do that. Told you when devotees would come in the room, they start saying, Prabhupada, thinking we plan to do this and I'll do this and I've done this and we can do like this. And he'd say, just do it. Said before Nike ever coined that phrase. Prabhupada had it. Could have put it on his wall. Just do it, he would say. Don't talk. Prabhupada was not big on long meetings. Very short, quick. Even the GBC meetings, they would meet 1-2 hours at a time for a couple of days in the beginning, just to discuss preaching activities. So he gave them the opportunity. And also he's wanting to see what his disciples, what they understand. So then they left the room. It was time for Prabhupada's massage there in Calcutta, Albert Road. I don't remember so many things, but I remember addresses of the temples back from 50 years ago. You know? And Prabhupada would take his massage on the veranda. It was outside, the veranda opened right up to the outside there in Calcutta. So I'm massaging his head, I'm behind him. He always asked me questions when I was behind him, not in front of him. I'd be behind him, which was, for me, that was very nice. So I massage his head and I start massaging his back. And he said, So Shruti Kirti, he said, what is your opinion? Should I go to Perth to rest? Or should I go to London for Rath Yatra? I had been with Prabhupada a year, just about a year at this time. And I just kind of smiled and laughed. I was sitting behind him and I said, Prabhupada, you're going to go to London because you're going to preach to thousands of people. He just shook. He said, you have good understanding. So the rest of the massage went on. Takes his bath, dresses, puts his tilak on, says his Gayatri, has his lunch. Calcutta. So after his lunch, everything was in the one room. Just a small room, sitting places there, the bed's on the side. He takes his nap. Calcutta was an interesting place. I remember when we arrived there the first time. It was just a few weeks before. I had the French doors that opened up to Prabhupada's room from the veranda. So the servant, he would have to sit right outside his room because Calcutta was his hometown. So many people knew him. They would drop in. So we get there and I go in the room, offer obeisances. He looks at me. He says, does your nose work? I said, what? He says, your nose work. Do you snore? I said, oh no, Prabhupada. He said, good, then you can sit outside. You sleep outside my room at night right in front of the doors. But he wanted to make sure I didn't make any noise with my nose. So he has his nap, he gets up, call them. So I call them. They're very eager and very excited. They got to discuss Prabhupada's movements, his travels. So they all come in, they offer obeisances, they sit up, and they looking at Prabhupada, and he looks at the leader of the group. There's always a leader in a group, sannyasi. So, what is your conclusion? Of course, I'm sitting on the side there. And he looks at Prabhupada and says, Prabhupada, we've discussed it. You should go to Perth, Australia to rest. Prabhupada just shook his head. He wanted him to understand. And so many times Prabhupada would say, do as I'm doing. That was one of the things he would say when his leaders, they would come. Or he would write them in letters. They would ask questions. He would say, just do what I'm doing. He wanted all of us, but especially those who were in these leadership positions, he wanted them to understand what it meant to be his disciple, what it meant to be a devotee. And it meant there isn't any rest. No rest. Rest when you die, then you can rest a long, long time. But until then, preaching. Prabhupada wanted preaching. That much I knew. There was no question he was going to go to Perth, Australia to rest. And why? Of all places, to come to London. When Prabhupada met his spiritual master, what was his outlook? He didn't even accept his diploma. He didn't accept his diploma from Scottish Churches College. Why? It was a form of protest against the British. He was protesting the British, how they had subjugated England. When Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said to him, 1922, you preach this Chaitanya cult to the Western world. What did Prabhupada say? Who's going to listen to us? We're under British rule. This Guru Maharaj said, no. no material impediments in spreading Krishna consciousness. No impediments. We saw that last night out there on Harinam. Actually, it was one of the happiest times I had. All this travel I'm doing, so many classes I'm doing. It was so nice to be out there chanting Hare Krishnas, thinking all these people, they're very much prospective devotees, you know. They all could be devoted. They're all chanting, dancing happily, even if it's just jokingly. They don't know they're making progress in Krishna consciousness, huh? The chanting of Hare Krishna, even done as a performance, one makes progress. May not be the ideal situation, but some benefit is there. They were chanting, devotees were handing out these little cards. They looked like they were tickets to a football game or something, so I think people were eager to take them. They didn't know what they were getting, some kind of gift. And they would follow and chant a mantra. Some of them would follow, chant a mantra along. Some of them were dancing. Huh? Prabhupada was going to go to London. You'll see why as it goes on. So, of course, he came here. You all know, I'm sure everyone here must know the history of that Rath Yatra festival. It was one of the most blissful Rath Yatras. It was the only one I got to be with Srila Prabhupada with. Somehow or other, I wasn't at any other Rath Yatras. But this one, I was able to be at. And of course, they had beautiful carts for Lord Jagannath, Subhadra, Baladev. And they started there at Marble Arch. And as soon as it began, of course, they had the Vyasasan there for Srila Prabhupada, Subhadra's cart. Prabhupada didn't sit on the Vyasasan. Now remember, he had been ill. One of his illnesses, not feeling well. That's another thing. 1974, August, September, Prabhupada was stopped eating for weeks. Just like now you see in Vrindavan, his bed there in his sitting room. That was over the last several months. He wasn't taking any prasadam, taking a little liquid, bite into an orange. At that time, when he started to improve, he would go outside, sit under the tamal tree. Tamal tree is just there in the courtyard, just directly behind or in front of Srimati Radharani. Yeah? So she can see Krishna. The tamal tree represents Krishna, blackish like Krishna. Yeah? That's where it is. Prabhupada would sit there in his rocking chair and I would sit on the marble floor. He said to me, we say Prabhupada was ill. It wasn't material illnesses. Pure devotee doesn't get sick. No material disease. His body's completely transcendental. He told me once, told me twice, over a few days. He said, this illness, you heard the other day I used that word 80 years old. I'd be intelligent when I'm 80, right? He said, this illness is because 80% of my leaders are not following. That's why I'm ill. Imagine. He said it again and again. He told me, don't let anyone touch my feet. He said, even my disciples, those who weren't his disciples, they're all looking for some material benefit, prosperity. He said, but even my disciples, he said, because he had to take some reaction. So he did like that. So that's when I understood Prabhupada didn't get sick. We say that Prabhupada was ill, he wasn't feeling well. His disease were his disciples. Like he said, taking so many disciples, he said, purifying them, accepting all their sinful activities. There's controversy on that as well. Pure devotee, nothing can touch pure devotee, just like Krishna can't be. But Prabhupada said again and again, he accepted some of the karma for the sinful activities. He said, therefore I'm sick. Coming to London for Rath Yatra, I mean, he didn't say anything, but I knew it was a big victory, being subjugated by the British so many years. Now, going there, conquering England with Krishna, with Jagannath, the Lord of the universe, come to England in a grand way. There was no question Prabhupada wasn't going to come to London for Rath Yatra. That much I knew, just by having his personal association. We always say Vani more important than Vapu. And of course it is, because following the instructions is the basis of everything we do in Krishna consciousness. And as I said, being with Srila Prabhupada, just being around him, seeing how he did things, just hearing how he said, what he did, how he walked, how he talked, how he applied tilak, everything he did. You could make advancement in Krishna consciousness just by seeing it. I always say one of my favorite, just watching him put tilak on was wonderful. Devotees just sit and look at him, seeing how he played the kartals, everything he did. So the Vapu was very, very nice. And me being with him, understanding every second Krishna conscious, every second trying to give Krishna to others. I knew right away. I just laughed. I didn't give my opinion. I could have thought like everyone else. You just rest, Srila Prabhupada. I knew better than that. No. Even 2 years later, the same thing happened in another situation. He was in Delhi, invited to Kurukshetra. It was the same devotees in the room. And he said, should I go to Kurukshetra or should I just stay here and rest? This was after his big illness, 1974. He called them all in and said, you discuss, and we'll speak later. And again, I'm giving him massage. This is 2 years later. And he says the same thing to me. So, Shruti Kirti, what do you think? Should I stay here and rest or take the 4-hour drive to Kurukshetra to go to this program and give a short talk? And I said the same thing. Prabhupada, you're going to go to Kurukshetra. You have good common sense. Good common sense. I had no sense, but I knew what he was going to do. By being with him, I could understand. And then the same thing happened. He has lunch, he takes a nap, call everyone, I call everyone, they come in. And Prabhupada looks at him. So, should I go to Kurukshetra or should I just stay here and rest from my serious illness he had? What did they say 2 years later? Same devotees. 2 years had gone by. What did they say? Rest. Prabhupada just shook his head, thinking, what do I have to do with you people? He didn't say that. But that's what he's thinking. What are you learning? All this association with me. What have you learned? Tell me to rest. There's no question of resting. I said, no retiring. Just carry on with the mission, preaching the mission of his Guru Maharaj. And of course he went on that program as well. But here on that Rath Yatra day, Prabhupada didn't get on the Vyasasan. He knew he had hundreds, thousands of people coming to this Rath Yatra, going down the main streets of London, heading to Trafalgar Square. He was the master of ceremonies. He started walking right away. He's walking, and of course, Prabhupada in the street, walking, and, wasn't dancing yet. And he'd look at the deities, raise his arms. Everyone's going in ecstasy, and their kirtan, of course, is ecstatic with Prabhupada there. So he made sure this was going to be most ecstatic Rath Yatra festival. And he kept walking and dancing, and you can see the video if you haven't seen it, this Rath Yatra. You can see all the young devotees there. A few of us were trying to keep people, to give Prabhupada some room. They don't get too close as he's dancing around, encouraging everyone. And, the British, as you all know, they like order. Devotees, they don't know order. They don't know. They're not like two lines, nicely chanting back and forth. Like you see with the Russian devotees, they go out on Harinam. Everything choreographed so nicely, every move they make. We're not like that, We weren't like that. Everybody's all over the place, dancing and chanting, crying, screaming, Crazy devotees, Prabhupada's disciples. That was a qualification. You had to be a character to be Prabhupada's disciple. See them all, these characters around. And I was just a young 22-year-old kid by Prabhupada. And the policeman comes up to me. He said, "You have to tell your leader, sit down in his chair there. He's making a disturbance." I see when we drive in the car, in England, you can go through these little things to slow you down. Every 20 feet, there's another bump you have to go over to slow you down. Fortunately, here at the temple, too, we have lots of little humps you have to go over. Because some devotees, they drive very crazily. He told me, maybe he saw that I was next to him a lot, that I looked like I was kind of part of the program or something. "Tell your leader to sit down. It's causing too much disturbance." And Prabhupada, he's hands in the air and dancing, swaying. All the devotees are dancing, and I was behind him. And I think, I have to do something. He said, "Otherwise we're going to stop the parade." I'm thinking, oh, geez, they're going to stop the parade, I tap Prabhupada on the shoulder. And Prabhupada, he does a 180 and he sees me. And I said, "Prabhupada, police say you have to sit in the chair." And he just continued turning around. He turned it into part of his dance. He did a 360, turned around. I didn't say anything to him. He's looking like, who do you think you are? Telling me to sit down in the Vyasasan. And he just kept dancing. And I looked at the Bobby, the policeman, and it was they couldn't control us. Prabhupada controlled us. He controlled us. We may not know or not know he was controlling us, but he was everything. He had everyone dancing and chanting, jumping up and down. Sometimes he'd stop and he'd lift his arms. When Prabhupada's feet came off the ground, everyone came off the ground. Like the puppet master, he could just make you do anything just by looking at you, just by raising his head. He could get you to jump up and down in ecstasy. So that went on for a few hours, a couple of miles walking. Prabhupada, the whole time he did it. He was going to make that very, very big Rath Yatra festival right there in the faces of all the British. He had conquered England. When Prabhupada came here, he conquered this whole country. And this Rath Yatra festival was part of that. He gave initiation. I don't know if anyone's here was initiated at that time. He gave first initiation, second initiation, right there at Trafalgar Square. So, of course, it ended at Trafalgar Square. All the devotees were there. Here in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada wrote, in the year, in his purport in Madhya Lila, in the year 1973, there was a gorgeous Rath Yatra festival in London, England, and the car was brought to Trafalgar Square. The London daily newspaper, The Guardian, published a front page photo caption, ISKCON Rath Yatra is rival to the Nelson column in Trafalgar Square. You think Prabhupada didn't know what was going to happen? You think he was going to go to Perth, Australia, sit behind a desk and chant Hare Krishna? No. This is the most wonderful festival. Last night, we're on Harinam Sankirtan. Started out, a group of 30 or more devotees, and we're all right in front of Govinda's cafe there. Any of you there last night on Harinam? Look at you people. What do you do all day? We're here because of Harinam Sankirtan. We're here because of book distribution. Prabhupada went out, didn't feel well, went out and preached. Everybody should be out there. That's our business. Prabhupada's still shaking his head. His leaders didn't understand over and over again. This is our business. Chanting Hare Krishna. Not just here, very nice, we chant before the deities. Our program was, Prabhupada said, one person stays in the temple, Pujari, take care of the deities. Everyone go out on Harinam. That's what he did. Set the example for everyone. We've been traveling all over the place. I gave a class last night. I gave class here yesterday morning. Then I gave a class at noontime, Vanaprastha class in the Haveli. Then I gave a class 7 o'clock last night in Soho Street. I didn't want to go out on Harinam, but they posted a picture on their WhatsApp group. Shruti Kirti at Harinam. I was hoping it would start raining really hard so I'd have an excuse. Krishna didn't give me an excuse. I was out there for 2.5 hours with the rest of the devotees. It was the most blissful thing. This whole trip, I don't know how many classes, 50 classes I've given already. I had more fun there 2 hours on Harinam than anything I've done. Seeing all these people in the streets chanting. So they started out in front of Govinda's cafe there, restaurant. And after about 20 minutes, then they moved, to the right there, to the little quadrangle or something, and we're chanting there for about 10 or 15 minutes. You know what happened? A policeman came up to me and said, "You have to move." I'm saying, why is he picking me? Out of 50 people, he's picking me. It was deja vu. Came up to me and said, "You have to move." I said, "Yeah, sure." Then we moved, we chanted every place, 10, 15 minutes, moved to the next place, moved to the next place. I mean, tens of thousands of people suffering, trying so hard to enjoy, for that few hours after work all the time. But their enjoyment, all mode of ignorance, everything, so much mode of ignorance. Anyway, I thought that was very funny. I said, why is he coming up to me? I certainly don't look like some Brit, that he could speak to or something. So many police were out there. Anyway, that was Rath Yatra Festival then. In a couple of weeks, you're going to have this Rath Yatra Festival again. And I think very soon they're going to start taking Prabhupada to the Haveli, and then Jagannath, Subhadra, Baladev will be there. But if we have a few minutes, anyone has any questions? Comments? Everyone ready to start going out on Harinam? At least once a week, Saturday night, I hear they have Harinam, Soho Street. There should be 100 of you or more. No question. No question. Prabhupada will be very, very pleased that you understand what he wants. And that's what it means to be disciple. Do what he wants, not what you want. That's what they say, to be Prabhupada's servant. What was it like? That's what it was like. No independent moves, nothing. Whatever he wants, that's what you do. He trained you up in that way. No questions? Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for another wonderful, wonderful class on Srila Prabhupada. You mentioned that Prabhupada did not want his disciples to touch his lotus feet. We have Prabhupada's lotus feet on the altar. Should we, during Guru Puja, I mean everyone, not everyone, but I certainly touch his lotus feet. Other devotees do too.
I brought his lotus slippers with me. He wore these on Japan Airlines 50 years ago. His 50th anniversary of having these slippers Prabhupada wore. No, that's fine. Now that's what we do. He placed himself on the altar in Vrindavan, 1975. He was still with us. He was on the altar there that we could pray to, that we could take his mercy from. That was his compassion. But at that time he was saying, don't do this. It wasn't a forever rule as such. But at the time he was saying he wanted to recover from his disciples, all their antics that were going on at that time. So we prevented it. Brahmananda was the best. He had his danda was like this thick, Anyone came near Prabhupada's feet, he'd just get his danda, bam, right on their hands, Get away. Prabhupada didn't stop it, So he accepted the service in that way. But no, we all want to take the dust of the lotus feet. But what does it mean? It's not just some ritual. To take the dust means following the instructions of the spiritual master. And I'm telling you, he wants you all out in the streets, creating havoc for all these policemen. Create havoc for them. Go out and chant. You should be in every town and village, every high street you should be on around here. That's our business. Prabhupada said there's a difference between saving yourself and trying to save others. Look at Vishaka there. You know how many temple presidents we have that are over 70 years old? We don't stop. We were trained that way. That's how we were trained. All we know is to do service. Please Srila Prabhupada. This is our business. The family business, as Vaisheshika says, right? This is the family business. Distribute Prabhupada's books. Go out on Harinam Sankirtan. Very simple. But yes, you take that dust on your head. But be careful, he might make you go out. After you get his blessings, he might send you out on the Harinam party or something. So got to be careful what you ask for, what you take. Yeah. Anything else? All right, I think everything's getting ready. We have one other.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you
Hare
for your
Krishna.
classes. Prabhu, I was just thinking, do you have any specific recollection of how Srila Prabhupada would talk about Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur? Did he share anything? I was just thinking about, we all know Srila Prabhupada as a spiritual master and as our founder Acharya, but anything like how he would, as a disciple, how did he look up to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, because of course he took that instruction and that was his life and soul. But anything specific that he ever mentioned and that you would like to share?
Well, way back it was in Hawaii, one of Prabhupada's disciples, he was praying to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he got to Prabhupada, he asked Prabhupada if it was okay. And of course, for him, Prabhupada said, he's your grandfather, spiritual master. And you know his grandparents are always more kind to the grandchildren than the parents, you know. Sometimes the parents will say that, boy, you didn't treat me like that when I was a kid, you know, when they see how they treat the grandchildren. They say, well, that's not how I got treated growing up, you know. But so that's a tendency with grandparents, you know. So he said he was 1,000 times more merciful than even his spiritual master, 1,000 times more merciful. Of course, everything comes, you know, this ISKCON society, as I say again and again, we're a shiksha line. Shiksha line. If you look on the altar there, you'll see great, great devotees taking shelter, shiksha guru. Prabhupada's everyone's preeminent shiksha guru, most important guru you have. It doesn't matter who gave you Harinam initiation, gave you second. He's the preeminent shiksha guru. That means everything we're getting, one way or another, it's coming through him, his society, founder Acharya. So he's the most important person for us, for everyone. Most important person, Srila Prabhupada. And as I said, one devotee once told Prabhupada, I went out, I did this, did this, and Prabhupada could see. He would see, as soon as he saw pride, he'd let you know. So the devotee was telling all his accomplishments. Prabhupada said, you're not doing anything. He said, I'm doing everything. That's how Prabhupada tells us again and again. I haven't done anything. It's all this mercy of my spiritual master. So that's how you have to see things as a disciple. Never become puffed up. Told you yesterday how he chastised temple president. You clean the pots. Who you think you are? Big devotee. You clean the pots. Huh? The GBC, you clean the pots. Don't say there's no one here. Do whatever, you know, like we learn, do the needful. So right now the needful is to carry on with the rest of the program this morning. So we'll stop here. Thank you all. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Snanayatra Festival Maha Mahotsava ki jai.